Yes, guys, welcome back to the 90 More Podcast. My name is Kosi. Welcome back to a brand new video. Match day 4 is done, and of course, teams are now into the international break. But what did we learn from every team from match day 4, and what could be that important lesson that every manager has to focus on as we walk into match day 5? Hit the like button, subscribe to the podcast as well. This show comes to you every single week, reviewing the performance of every team in the Premier League after the weekend. Arsenal 3, Manchester United 1. Arsenal are much better in match day 4, and that is the lesson they have to take away from that one. Mikel Arteta has to focus on the system that works. He's got to focus on the starting 11 that actually works. If Leandro Trossard is a good player, if Fabio Vieira is a much better player than Kai Havertz, then he's got to go with that. But defensively, Arsenal were very, very compact. They were very organized. I think they just didn't allow Man United run in behind a lot of the time. Yes, maybe a few times because United have got the quality, but I loved Arsenal, and I really think that is the system Mikel Arteta has got to go for. Declan Rice in midfield, Kai Havertz probably replaced by Fabio Vieira, and Martin Odegaard getting that time and space around the striker. But I think Gabriel Jesus is another positive in match day 4 for Arsenal. Manchester United on the other side, it is a lesson to be learned. Defensively, they are a shambles. Now, I think Man United really played very well in that game, and they will feel a little bit hard done by. They deserve a point in that game. But the problem Man United had is defensively, they were a shambles at the end. And of course, this comes from the fact that they don't have those defensive options. Varane is injured, Lichi, the Butcher is injured as well, Luke Shaw is injured. So injuries are really affecting them, and they find themselves in a very precarious situation. You've got to play Harry Maguire and Evans in the same team. In 2023, that is not a combination that walks away with a point or even 3 points at the Emirates Stadium. But Man United, it will be alright. Liverpool 3, Aston Villa 2. Liverpool are lethal on the counter attack, and that is the lesson they've got to learn. They're very good on the transition, they're very good on the break, and that is something, that is a strength that we've seen with Jurgen Klopp's teams. It is actually back. Now, I looked at that combination of Diaz, Trent, Salah, and Darwin Núñez. Oh my God, you've got to love it. Trent playing that ball over the top to Mo Salah. Mo Salah, just bringing it down and then laying it into the path of Darwin Núñez time and again and again. And of course, Liverpool creating those overloads on the right-hand side and then allowing a lot of space for Diaz on the left-hand side to run into, get players 1v1 and beat them. Liverpool are back, and we might actually have a big problem for ourselves this campaign. Aston Villa, same lesson as Man United over the weekend. Fix that defense. The problem with Villa, similarly to Man United, is injury. So you have your best defender in Diego Carlos coming off in that game against Liverpool, and then you've already lost Tyrone Mings to an injury. So in my opinion, I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't think Keleman Lenglet is a player they actually have to play. So Pau Torres and Ezra Konsa, is that a combination? Is that a centre-back pairing that can actually take them some time? Maybe it could, but I just don't trust it, all right? But Aston Villa, the problem is they are conceding too many goals. 5 against Newcastle, 3 against Liverpool. You just can't allow that. It is typical of Unai Emery teams. We had that when he was at Arsenal, but he's got to work on that as well. Crystal Palace 3 and Wolverhampton Wanderers 2. Crystal Palace, Eberechi Eze is going to be the key for you this campaign. He's good. He's absolutely good. What I love about Eberechi Eze, shirt number 10 at Crystal Palace, he loves what he does, but then he's not afraid to do whatever he wants to do. Like, he does things you don't believe he's going to do them, and he actually does them. He's going to be the key for them because creatively, Crystal Palace do not have Wilfred Zaha anymore. They don't have that, huge talent like Brighton, because at Brighton, you have Fati, you have Enciso, you have Mitoma, you have so many options there. At Crystal Palace, you have Eze in that number 10 role. Then you have probably one winger on the right and a winger on the left. That is all the creativity you are going to get, right? So for me, in my opinion, Crystal Palace, Eberechi Eze is one to actually build around. Wolverhampton Wanderers, they are lost at sea and they need to organize that team very quickly. My problem with Wolverhampton Wanderers actually is, how do you lose a very good manager in Lopetegui just because you cannot give him what he wants, and then you want to stay in the Premier League? They look set to go down unless they can actually get Gary O'Neill to organize that team. Is it Martin O'Neill, Gary O'Neill? organize that team, get good players in as well, get those players to play the best football. They need to be defensively solid and compact. You cannot be conceding 3 goals, 4 goals, 5 goals. It's a disgrace, and you cannot stay in the Premier League. But at the moment, Wolverhampton Wanderers look lost at sea. Brighton 3, Newcastle 1. The lesson for Brighton in this game: better than last season, and they have lost McAllister, they have lost Caicedo, but they're much better than they were last campaign. Of course, they did get that kind of hiccup against West Ham, and of course you've got to ask the question, when they play clubs that can actually overpower them, like West Ham did overpower them. I'm not saying West Ham do have a bigger and a better squad or a better starting 11, but West Ham are really on fire, and we're going to talk about them. But Brighton are much better than they were last campaign. Now, they've signed players, Mahmoud Dawood, James Milner, genius signings, absolute genius signings. And then they brought in the caliber of Ansu Fati, they brought in the caliber of Baleba as well. I like that signing, I really, really do. So, Brighton, guys, watch out. We might be saying this season, they might actually suffer from fatigue and this and that, and they might be a much better team. Newcastle, they make it too easy for you to play against them. I saw it against Man City, I saw it against Brighton, and I saw it against a 10-man Liverpool. They just make it too easy to play against them. That midfield of Sandro Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton, I'm sorry, it is not working. They need a proper defensive midfielder. I have no problem with Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes pushing a little bit forward in that kind of formation of left 8 and right 8. I don't have a problem with that. But for me, I think they need a real defensive midfielder. They might need a 10 as well eventually. They were looking at Maddison. Maddison eventually went to Tottenham Hotspur. We're going to talk about him in this video. But I tell you what, guys, Newcastle, this could be a long season. If they play like this, if they just allow chances to go through them, this must be a long season than they anticipated. Brentford 2, Bournemouth 2. The lesson for Brentford in this game: call on Brian Mbeumo and he will answer when Ivan Toney is away. I said it during my preview of the campaign, and I'm going to do my predictions once again. I said it that the only thing that will save Brentford this campaign is if Brian Mbeumo steps up, of course, and Johan Wissa. Those two guys are really stepping up. I like the way Brian Mbeumo doesn't give up. He knows how big the shoes are, because he's got to cover for himself, and then he's got to cover for Ivan Toney. So the Brian Mbeumo role is easy because he's done it over the time. Just, whack the defenders, run, make that run off the shoulder, make that run in behind. But with Ivan Toney, it is the goals, and Brentford need the goals without Ivan Toney. But at the moment, Brian Mbeumo is actually doing it, so they need to find him more, and they need to add him to the game in terms of involving him a little bit more. Bournemouth, much better football than they played last campaign. Generally, I would ask a question if they're much better as a team. So this is not the same point as Brighton. Brighton are much better. They play this almost the same kind of football, but they're much better. You see, they're a little bit compact. They are industrious. They're players that look like are really ready for this stage. But with Bournemouth, it is courtesy of the new manager. The football they are playing is absolutely nowhere near what they played last campaign. And what I love about Brentford, by the way, is they've got that fighting spirit in them. They lead games, they got 2-0 up, they got 2-1 up. In this game, they actually led 2-1. In my opinion, if you're Bournemouth and you go to the GTEC Community Stadium and you lead 2-1, you should walk away with a point, and they absolutely did. But the football is fascinating. Don't worry, guys, I'm going to be watching Bournemouth so that you don't have to. All you have to do is to watch this show every single week for the weekly result. Burnley 2-5 Tottenham Hotspur. The lesson for Burnley in this game: play at home, better place. That is the lesson they've got to take away. Now, the Turf Moor is one of the difficult stadiums to go to, right? In the Premier League, in Premier League history, ever since it started in 1992, the Turf Moor is one of those places you don't want to go to. It doesn't look like that this campaign. Company has got to make that place a fortress. They've got to play much better. Luton Town played much better at home. Sheffield United play much better at home. Burnley have got to do that. They've got to make that place a fortress. No matter how big the club that comes there, they should not be humiliated. Losing 3-0 to Manchester City is alright. 2-1 to Man United is right at home, but do not get humiliated. Do not get battered. It will actually shatter the confidence of the team. Tottenham Hotspur, Heung-min Son has the goals for you, and Maddison has the key to the goals. That is the lesson from match day 4 for Tottenham Hotspur. And this is what I said when I was watching this game. How do we survive Heung-min Son on fire and James Maddison behind him? The problem at Tottenham Hotspur, and this is why they really needed a proper manager, the problem at Tottenham Hotspur was easy. Can you get a number 10? Can you get a creative player to replace Christian Eriksen, who had left the club a couple of years ago and everything was in total disarray and everything was in absolute shambles? When they brought in Ange Postecoglou, he actually understands the game, brings in James Maddison, and everything is actually working out. But of course, they're much better defensively. But the key lesson in match day 4 is Heung-min Son, because it doesn't have the speed he had 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Could they utilize him like Mo Salah? Because again, Salah has got that speed to spin in behind. Son has got that speed to spin in behind as well, but not the terrific speed of Leon Bailey and Moussa Diaby at Aston Villa. So I think he should be playing a little bit more centrally. He can start out wide, but then his finishing position should be a little bit more central, just to give them the goals. He's a clinical finisher, guys. He's a clinical finisher, and he might actually have a good season this campaign, right? That hat-trick, I envy it. I want an Arsenal player on the hat-trick in the next weekend. I bet we can get it. Chelsea 0, Nottingham Forest 1. Chelsea, the lesson is you do not have an identity, and therefore there is nothing for you this campaign yet. The problem with Chelsea is they lack that togetherness. They lack that cohesion. They don't look like a unit. They don't look like a team that trains together, feeds together, wear the same jersey, and speaks the same language. The identity crisis at Chelsea still continues. It was their last campaign, and many people actually were reacting to footage of Chelsea players coming to training as if they were total strangers in a new place, in the same place, but they had nothing, they had no business doing together, or coming together. So the problem I see with Chelsea is when Jackson makes the run, that run doesn't communicate to the rest of the players that Jackson is going to make the run, or Jackson makes the run, so we've got to play the ball into his path. But maybe Mauricio Pochettino has seen that, and more than that, and he was going to work on that. Probably he just needs a lot of time. Nottingham Forest, Anthony Elanga, what a signing. What a signing, my God. Anthony Elanga is much better for Nottingham Forest than Brennan Johnson. It's a hot take, but I will defend it. I think with Anthony Elanga, you've got a player who has the ingredients of the club, the level of Nottingham Forest, right? You want to be sitting deep, you want to be compact, and you want to be a little bit organized, especially with Stephen Cooper this season looking to defend with a 5 and at times with a 6 as well. So they need players that can actually spin in behind at terrific speed, beat players 1v1, and they can actually execute tasks at a very terrific speed. That player is Anthony Elanga. Combine Anthony Elanga with Morgan Gibbs-White, with Taiwo Awoniyi and Chris Wood, we might have a problem this campaign in the Premier League, and that problem could be Nottingham Forest Elanga. Did I say that right? Nottingham Forest Elanga. Manchester City 5, Fulham 1, VAR disgrace was there, but of course the key lesson for Manchester City, Erling Haaland is back, but do not sit on Julian Alvarez. Let's talk about Haaland for just a small second, because he's my FPL captain, and therefore I've got to talk about him and thank him as well for the points. My problem with Erling Haaland is one, he's too good. Like, he just keeps on surprising people. He's too good. You remember when Rory Jennings said this guy will not score 30 goals in a campaign? Like, mate, are you crazy? Another hat-trick for Erling Haaland. He doesn't need many chances. He doesn't need many touches to bury the goals, to bury the chances. But the key lesson in this game is the way Julian Alvarez is becoming such an important player for Manchester City. His combination with Erling Haaland just allows the attention to go, some of the attention to go out from Erling Haaland when he makes those runs. And of course, when Erling Haaland drifts into those wide areas a little bit or away from goal, probably not very wide, but away from goal, then he can cut that ball back, and Julian Alvarez will always be there. It's a shame that when Manchester City start playing Jeremy Doku and Matthias Nunes, then maybe Alvarez could actually spin out of the team, back to the bench. But he's such a key player for them this campaign, and therefore you've got to watch him as you prepare to play Manchester City this campaign. Fulham, the lesson is this was a reality check. Fulham had kept on, picking up points in a kind of shambolic way. And I love it when a team like, Fulham can go to the Emirates Stadium and pick up a point when they can win a game where they didn't play well. I think their opening game, Decordova Reid getting that late winner. You just love that jeopardy around football. But they needed a reality check. They needed to know we are good, but how good are we, and are we really that good? And I think that was a reality check. Silva has to go down as manager now and look at this team and understand how good are they, what are their capabilities, and what are their strengths and weaknesses. Sheffield United to Everton at home. Sheffield United, the lesson for me is Cameron Archer is going to be the key. 2 goal involvements in that game. Beautiful footballer. Beautiful football. You can see why they spent the money. You can see why they broke the bank to actually bring him in from Aston Villa. I think, yes, we've been talking about Ndiaye leaving. This guy could be a loved player at Sheffield, right? He's so direct, he's very decisive, and it doesn't take a lot of time to execute his decisions and actions. Everton, Beto is the difference maker for you this campaign, and you've got to utilize him. I think Everton will be unhappy and unsatisfied for the fact that they didn't get the maximum output or the maximum outcome in this game. But I think what you've got to think about as an Everton fan is the way the team is actually taking shape. And that's why I think Sean Dyche should not be sacked, should not even be in the conversation of being sacked. So look at the way he's using Beto. You look at the way he's using Amadou Onana now. Like kind of a number 10 just gliding behind behind Beto. Is absolutely beautiful. So Everton, you'll be alright, but Beto is going to be a key player. He's so direct as a player. Like he's a bottom half striker. He just takes his chances. Everything he looks at, he actually thinks it could turn into a goal. Like, remember Richarlison? Remember the way Richarlison impacted Everton? Beto could be that player. I won't be surprised if Beto scores 10 plus goals this campaign for Everton. It's a hot take, but it is true. It will happen. Luton Town 1-2 West Ham. Luton Town, the lesson for Luton Town in this game: home games, you look good and you've got to do that. It's the same. It's kind of a very similar lesson to what I said for Burnley. But the reason why I said this for Luton is they looked good against West Ham. They really did. They put up a fight. This is a game that could have ended 2-0. Yes, many, in the earlier parts of the game, especially in the earlier parts of the second half, they looked a little bit shaky. They looked like they had given up. But the moment they get that goal, and that is why you've got to think about how to get goals as a small Premier League team. The moment they get the goal, the game changes, and I love the way they look at home. They don't allow, clubs like West Ham, clubs like, clubs on a big budget. They don't just allow them to cut through them like a hot knife through butter. Yes, maybe they were overpowered by Chelsea, but you love a good home performance, and Luton Town are ready to give that to their supporters this campaign. And finally, West Ham, the new midfield trio. Wow, I love it. And I'm going to have Edson Alvarez, Paqueta, and James Ward-Prowse one weekend, all of them in my FPL midfield. I love it. And what I love about West Ham is the balance. It's the new balance they have as a team. Edson Alvarez, the tackler, and the ball winner. Again, the ball progressor. James Ward-Prowse is an elite ball distributor and also an elite footballer when it comes to dead ball situations. Lucas Paqueta is an elite attacking midfielder. You look at that assist he makes for Bowen and you ask me, why do you not have him in your FPL? The answer is easy. I'm sorry. I should have. So West Ham, the new midfield trio is much better. It creates that kind of balance. Edson Alvarez oscillating from that middle point, drifting back to help out the defense. And then James Ward-Prowse, defensively, is a very good player. But then drifting, for him, what he does is drifts from that center back going forward. And Lucas Paqueta, that means that he doesn't need a lot of tracking back. He doesn't need a lot of moving, and he doesn't need to cover a lot of distances. All he's got to do is to stay in the final third, wait for that ball, and it will eventually arrive. The Premier League match day 4, yep, it's 22 minutes a video, but it's worth it. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe, and let me know your team. What is the lesson that you learned in match day 4?